Hello everyone, it's me, Tom Storytime, back again. Please enjoy the story, and if you like it, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. After 3 years of persistent pursuit, I decided I couldn't go on anymore. I deleted her contact, moved out of the house, and found a reason to break up. Our matching couple's necklaces fell into the man-made lake, and I lied, claiming it was an ill omen. I didn't think I would ever see her again, nor did I expect her to believe my reason for the breakup. Later, I heard a story that one night, a famous student from the literature department had seemingly lost her mind, jumping into the lake at midnight to search for a necklace that had long since vanished. After class, I turned on my phone and closed my eyes to pray for 3 seconds. I opened them to check my messages again, but there was still no reply from her. Yen, I'm heading out now. Remember to bring your phone. I'll pick you up at the school gate when your classes are over. It seems a massive game store just opened, and they have that game you've been looking forward to. Shall we go check it out after school? Our message window was a solid wall of blue. I comforted myself, thinking she was perhaps too busy to reply in time. But in the psychology lecture I just attended, the professor said, if someone is truly important to you, even if they are in the middle of a shower, they will run out to answer your text. I stood waiting for her in front of the literature department building. Once, when I went to her classroom to find her, she had been furious, so I decided to just wait outside until sunset. Finally, I saw her. Tall and slender, she stood out in the crowd. Her short skirt fluttered gently in the evening sun. Beside her was a boy holding a guidebook, seemingly calculating something. She never lacked male companions around her. I approached the two of them, hands in my pockets, looking directly at the boy. He seemed flustered but tried his best to face me. Her gaze settled on me, and she asked coldly, "What is it?" In that moment, I truly wanted to ask so many things. Why didn't you reply to my messages? Why are you getting close to other boys? Why did you forget our promise? But the words that came out instead were, "It's getting dark, are you cold?" The evening breeze carried a slight chill. I looked into her beautiful but icy eyes, unable to suppress a feeling of sorrow. My friends used to tell me, your own circumstances aren't bad, why must you insist on loving someone like that? When they found out she was the one I was pursuing, they would offer sympathetic looks. Well, she is a goddess, if you don't chase her, someone else will. Everyone meets someone in their youth who leaves a deep mark on their heart. For me, she was that person. At the grade 11 sports meet, she suddenly leaned against me, beads of sweat on her forehead. Her beautiful eyes made it impossible for me to look away. She tilted her head slightly, looking like a vibrant, colorful painting. "Could you please buy me a bottle of water?" she asked. Back then, Lu Ruyan certainly didn't expect that she would run into trouble by getting involved with me. In the end, she still went with me to the game store I had messaged her about that morning. I didn't expect the grand opening to attract so many people. Because she disliked crowded places, Lu Ruyan frowned the moment she saw the long line at the door. I took the initiative to pull her away. "Forget it, there are too many people." But she stopped in front of a game titled Evil Dragon and the Brave and said, "I want to buy this. Can you wait in line for me? I'll wait outside." Occasionally, she would be in a good mood and have a bit more patience than usual. While standing in line, I looked out the window and saw her in her white dress, wearing a crossbody bag, staring intently at her phone. Just standing there was enough to make many boys turn their heads. But when I finally finished waiting in line and brought the game disc out, she had disappeared. I texted and called her, but there was no response. I was used to this coldness and distance, so I wasn't particularly surprised. The last time she had a proper conversation with me was when I had persisted in my pursuit for the 21st time. She once praised me, "Persistent guys like you are rare nowadays." Back in grade 11, she was fast-tracked into a top university, while I was just an average student. But because of her saying, "I don't like people who are bad at studying," I pushed myself to excel and finally got into the same university as her. The 16th time I intentionally ran into her at the school gate, she just frowned and said, "I don't like you." Even though we have been dating for 2 years now, I am still not sure if she actually likes me. I carried the game disc home alone. Without turning on the lights, I sat down on the floor and felt my hands were wet. Don't be sad about being abandoned anymore. This has happened many times, I told myself. If I were sad every time, life would be miserable. A man shouldn't shed tears easily. I tried to comfort myself until my phone rang. When I saw her name pop up, my heart still skipped a beat. But when I picked up, the person on the other end wasn't her. It was a classmate who said he had run into her at the game store and had invited her to a school party. He said she seemed to have had a bit too much to drink and asked me to come pick her up. Lu Ruyan had indeed drunk so much that when I brought her home, she was still clutching my hand tightly. I removed her scarf for her. Her face was slightly flushed, her eyes blurred by the alcohol. She looked up, intending to kiss me, but because she wasn't steady, we both fell to the floor. In the slightly chaotic scene by the entrance, she placed her hand on my chest and kissed gently along my ear, carrying the slight scent of alcohol. Yen, do you remember what you promised me yesterday? I asked. But she only frowned. If she didn't remember, then so be it, there was no use blaming her. I staggered up to get the cake from the fridge and said, yesterday you said you would celebrate my birthday with me tonight, but you went to a party with friends instead. Why can't you care about me even just a little bit? Those words had been looping in my head, but I couldn't bring myself to say them out loud. She stared at the cake, then opened the box and placed it on the table. We can celebrate now, what's the difference? The difference is that it's past midnight, I replied, sighing as I cut a slice of cake for her. The sweetness of the cream melted in my mouth, but I didn't dare tell her how much I had looked forward to this birthday. I had hoped she would spend the whole evening with me, but even if I said it, she wouldn't understand. I raised my piece of cake, clinked it against hers, and asked, do you think I will always like you? She didn't answer, and I didn't know the answer either. At least for now, my feelings haven't changed. Lu Ruyan is like a nectar-filled flower that I can never stop being attracted to. I feel that one day, she will look at me with eyes full of love. Or maybe one day, when I no longer crave the sweetness, I will pack everything up and leave her. When that time comes, even if she calls, I won't look back. When I woke up, I saw a heart-shaped necklace beside me. Perhaps there was another one to make a pair. I suddenly realized this was likely the birthday gift she intended to give me. So, in the end, does Lu Ruyan really care about me? Perhaps not much. If I truly left her, she probably wouldn't be very sad. On the contrary, she might even feel more comfortable. I feel lucky that I chose psychology, otherwise, I would surely have been worn out to the point of exhaustion by her. How else could I be like I am now, still able to laugh and joke comfortably? The next day during a general education class, I sat down next to her and asked, so early, have you eaten breakfast yet? I leaned my head on my hand, looking at her as if nothing had happened. I have, she replied coldly. The early morning light shone softly on her face, making me daze off for a moment. I blamed myself for why I couldn't break free just because of that face. I was slightly surprised because I knew Lu Ruyan didn't like eating breakfast, which caused her some stomach issues. Over the years, I have always forced her to eat breakfast. I brought breakfast for you, senior. Suddenly, a voice rang out from the other side of Lu Ruyan. It was that underclassman from yesterday. He spoke in a cheerful yet somewhat arrogant tone, seemingly wanting to show off a special relationship with her. But I know Lu Ruyan has no special feelings for him. If she truly cared about someone else, she would certainly end things with me directly. Lu Ruyan only cared about classical literature books that I could never fully comprehend. The only reason she stayed with me was also because of that passion for literature. That was the 21st time I had talked to her about meaningless things just to see if she would respond. And then, that afternoon, with 4 minutes and 27 seconds left before class ended, she texted me, I like you. Those 3 words were small but possessed massive destructive power, immediately making me think of every possible scenario. Maybe she lost a dare in a game, her account was hacked, or perhaps she intended to say, I don't like you but made a typo. 5 minutes later, she added, do you want to date me? I felt like I was exploding into fireworks. I only found out later that 2 guys in the department had fought over her to the point of hospitalization. When the advisor called her in because it was such a nuisance, she pushed me forward and claimed she already had a boyfriend. During class that day, The professor assigned a group project that required 2 people per team. Naturally, I thought I would work with Lu Ruyan. After all, I was her boyfriend. But that underclassman quickly registered his name alongside hers. "How about this, senior?" he said. "She and I share the same major and we have an ongoing project from our advisor, so working together is more convenient. You should find someone else to work with." This time, I could clearly hear the triumph in his voice. I turned to look at Lu Ruyan. She didn't react, only staring at me silently, seemingly agreeing with the underclassman's words. I felt a wave of embarrassment. This was a literature major course. I only chose it because she was here. But since I was a natural sciences major and knew no one else in the class, I was gradually being left isolated. I instinctively looked toward her for help, but forgot that she would never take my side. I scratched my nose, feeling utterly useless. Such a trivial matter, yet it left me fumbling. "What are you doing? Does no one want to be in a group with you?" Right then, that underclassman added fuel to the fire. I clenched my fists, about to snap back, when a familiar voice rang out from above, "He does." A hand lightly tugged at my sleeve. "Gee Boda, what a coincidence. You're taking this classical literature course too? What a small world." It was Su Tion, my classmate and the president of the ballet club. Appreciating cryptic poetry was exactly the kind of thing a young lady like her would do. I felt redeemed as I took the sign-up sheet to write down Su Tiantian's name, but I couldn't find a pen. So, I turned to the person next to me to borrow one. I saw my girlfriend, Lu Ruyan, staring fixedly at the hand of the girl clutching my sleeve. Even so, she didn't react, merely handing me her pen. In that brief moment, I felt as if she was jealous. Once the group assignment was finalized, it was almost time to leave. The girl sitting behind me tapped my back and asked if I wanted to grab dinner. I had planned to eat with Lu Ruyan, but then I saw her pick up her things and walk out. Her white dress fluttered with every step as she left without a single backward glance. "Do you two seem to be fighting?" Su Tion asked as we sat eating in the crowded cafeteria. In reality, Lu Ruyan and I rarely fought because I was almost incapable of not caring about her. I knew that if I didn't pay attention to her, she would probably never bother with me again. I had no ego and was very adaptable. "It's fine, I'll go find her this afternoon," I said, changing the subject. "Are you interested in classical literature, or is that why you chose this elective?" I spoke while quickly swallowing a spoonful of tomato soup. She set her chopsticks down and asked seriously, "Do you actually like this subject? Gee Boda, do you really have no intention of going to England with Professor Xu for research? There are so many students in class, yet Professor Xu chose you. This is a great opportunity for you to defend your undergraduate thesis." The criminal psychology professor always held me in high regard and had invited me multiple times to follow him to England for study. On one hand, he was truly a leading scholar in the field. Becoming his disciple would make my future very promising. But on the other hand, I had never been abroad, and agreeing meant I would have to leave my homeland, which also meant opportunities to see Lu Ruyan would be extremely rare. Truthfully, the thought of not being able to see her was a massive hurdle for me, and that was why I kept hesitating. If I posted this story online, I would surely be criticized relentlessly. That said, since I am studying psychology, I'd probably be criticized twice as much. Su Tion, I am truly not thinking straight. I sighed, swirling the vegetables on my plate. Studying psychology, yet my own love life is a tangled mess. The girl sitting across from me chuckled softly. "It's not such a big deal. A few years ago, there was even a lecturer in our department who was driven into depression by a student." I texted Lu Ruyan in the afternoon, sending her a message subtly referencing the major events of 1991 with the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War. But she only replied with a question mark. I stared at that question mark more than a dozen times, hoping she would say something more, but she didn't. When I opened the classroom door, I saw Lu Ruyan standing next to the underclassman named Lin Chong. This time, I remembered his name. Seeing me enter, Lin Chong frowned and blocked my path. "What are you doing here?" I couldn't let him stop me from seeing my girlfriend. Honestly, I didn't expect Lu Ruyan to react because she usually ignored me when I called her name, but this time she took off her protective gloves and walked over to me. "Let's go." Not only I, but also Lin Chung was stunned by her words. "What about your report, senior?" Lin Chung asked. "Time's up. If you want to do more, do it yourself," she replied in her usual icy tone. Perhaps because she grew up in such a comfortable environment, Lu Ruyan always maintained a cold indifference toward everyone, never showing tenderness. I followed her out of the laboratory, my heart wavering. It was rare for me to have the chance to be with her for an entire evening, as she was usually busy with materials she had just borrowed from the library. In the evenings, I usually cook. Sometimes she comes home to eat, sometimes not. But she had never proactively asked me to go shopping with her like today. I knew what she liked to eat. While I was picking out potatoes, I saw the girl standing by the freezer, leaning against the cart and watching me. She possessed a captivating beauty that easily drew eyes at first sight. The silver light draped over her back. She just watched me silently, her thoughts unknown. After returning home, I finally understood what she was thinking. In the dark room, as I was about to set the groceries down and turn on the light, she hugged me from behind and kissed me. Once again, we fell to the floor by the entrance. Sometimes I think I should clear out some shoes from the doorway, but fortunately, I managed to raise my hands in time to protect her head. To us, these acts were like a pastime between a couple, not a way to exchange love. My feelings were likely much deeper than hers. Though she rarely responded normally, in moments like these, she responded more. The moonlight accidentally spilled onto her face. I realized she was looking down at me, but I couldn't read the emotions in those eyes. I only knew that if I held her tight, she would be mine. As for those bitter, unpleasant feelings, those were my portion to bear alone. If one day I could no longer endure it, I would leave. Afterward, I was too exhausted to cook, so Lu Ruyan made dinner that night. I rarely ate her cooking, but I had to admit it was delicious. "From now on, you should cook," I said. She nodded, but after she showered, she returned to her usual indifferent self. That day, the professor called me privately into his office. Xu Cheng, the youngest criminal psychology professor at the university, always had many students eager to study under him. No one probably thought someone would turn down an opportunity to conduct research abroad with him, but I was that person. "Ji Boda, if you have any requests, just tell me, I will help resolve them within my capability. You should know that I value you highly. My research team is about to depart for England. The paperwork can be handled later. This is your last chance," he said, leaning back against his desk. "I heard you refused because of a relationship issue?" I didn't know how to answer. Clearly, this professor who researched criminal motives wasn't skilled at understanding the romantic troubles of his students. Just as I was about to open my mouth to explain, someone abruptly entered the office, startling me. "Don't act so impulsively." Xu Cheng frowned at Su Tiontion, who ran into the room gasping for breath. "It's not that, Professor. Ji Boda, look, this post has gone viral all over the school." The school had a confession wall, but in reality, it wasn't just for confessions. It was also a place where students settled conflicts and even argued with each other. It was a place where people gathered for gossip, but I never expected that one day my name would appear on it. The post read, "My pen went missing yesterday afternoon in the laboratory at the Mingde building. That pen was a gift from a world-renowned physicist to my grandfather, who then passed it down to me. It holds significant sentimental value beyond its material worth." The building's surveillance cameras were malfunctioning, but according to the access control logs, the only people present during that time frame were myself, my senior, and one student from another department. Therefore, I demand that the student Ji Boda, from the Department of Sociology, majoring in psychology, return my pen immediately. Attached to the end of the post was my student ID photo from when I first enrolled. The post went viral instantly. "I know Ji Boda, he's a very reliable person. I can't believe he's involved in something like this. Why would such an outstanding student do something so sneaky? I heard he used to chase the belle of the literature department for years until he finally got her." I felt the blood rush to my head. I had never even seen that pen. The poster didn't hide his identity, it was none other than Lin Chung. Immediately afterward, my advisor called, "G. Boda, come to the office right now." I took a deep breath trying to stay calm and said, "Sir, before I come in, I need to do one thing." I hung up and dialed 110, "Lin Chung, regarding your missing pen, I have reported it to the police. The officer beside you will help you find it. As for now, I want to discuss you posting my personal information and photo online without permission. If you cannot provide a valid reason, I will request the police to handle this matter accordingly." The air in the office was as tense as a stretched wire. Lin Chung leaned against the desk with a sneer. "You stole someone's property and still have the nerve to act like this? You only dare to be stubborn because you know I don't have clear evidence." I repeatedly reminded myself to stay calm, but seeing Lu Ruyan standing there made my heart ache. I checked the system with my senior. "You were the only one who stopped by during that time. If it wasn't you, then who else?" I didn't hear much of what he said after that, but the phrase, "I checked with my senior," kept echoing in my head. It turned out he was always by her side. Did she also believe I had taken that pen? The matter was subsequently handed over to the police for investigation, and the post was taken down. On the way back, Lu Ruyan walked ahead, hands in her pockets. I couldn't help but chase after her. "What do you think about this? Do you also think I took that pen?" She stopped, frowning as she looked at me. "This has nothing to do with me. The professor assigned a lot of tasks. I have to finish them. I just want you to stand by me once, to trust me just this once." I grabbed her wrist, my voice unable to hide its trembling. Lu Ruyan only frowned slightly in disapproval before turning away to keep walking. "Why do you keep forcing me to believe you? Is my trust really that important?" I could only remain silent, my hand falling limp at my side. Eventually, the police found the pen lodged in a crevice of a table in the literature reading room. I thought everything would be cleared up, and at the very least, I would receive an apology. But after being taken to the station for a warning, the next time Lin Chung saw me, he merely smirked with disdain. "Who knows if you snuck into the lab in the middle of the night to plant the pen back?" Because of that single comment, the moment the police left, I lunged at Lin Chung. We both ended up in the school infirmary. Su Tiantian said I lacked patience and should have recorded him and reported it, because now both of us were being held responsible. But at least I had caused him pain, even if my face was scratched up. Later, Lu Ruyan came to the infirmary to pick me up. For some reason, seeing her filled me with an indescribable sadness. I moved to hug her, but she went rigid and asked coldly, "What are you doing?" Her tone was so indifferent. She didn't understand. She didn't know that I was exhausted by all of this. I wanted to take her hand and say, "Let's go home," but she looked at me and said, "I didn't come here for you." Then, she stood up and walked toward the student Lin Chung, who was sitting nearby. "If you're done resting, come with me. There's an experiment we haven't finished, and the professor said the deadline is today." I said nothing and didn't even bother to look at his expression. I only felt a stinging, numbing pain in my heart. The wounds on my face hurt too. I pressed my hand against them, telling myself to just endure a little longer. Lu Ruyan returned home around 9 p.m. I sat on the sofa, looking up to ask, "Did you finish the experiment before the deadline?" She gave a brief reply while changing her shoes at the door, then went straight into the bedroom. "I got hurt in the fight today. Does the wound still look bad?" I tried to ask further. "No," she replied, her voice devoid of concern. "Are you hungry? Shall I cook some late-night snack for you?" She declined. I nodded, feeling as though this was just an ordinary night like any other. I looked down at the last message my professor had sent me. "G. Boda, I am glad you chose to join us in England for research. The schedule is very tight, the flight tickets are ready, and luckily you already have a multi-entry visa. Pack your bags tonight, we depart tomorrow morning." Back in grade 11, Lu Ruyan and I had watched a movie called The Legend of 1900. At the time, I didn't understand the line, "A painting on the wall, one day it suddenly falls without any warning." The piano player lived his whole life on the ship, but one day, he decided to leave. I used to wonder how a person could decide something so monumental without any prior sign. But that morning at 6 a.m., I packed my luggage, left the key at the door, and departed without a word. On the way past the man-made lake, I took off the matching necklace Lu Ruyan had given me that day and threw it into the water. Then I texted her, "Our matching necklace fell into the lake. It seems like a bad omen. So, Lu Ruyan, let's break up." Winter in Germany was truly freezing. I stood by the window watching the snowflakes land on the pine trees. Su Tion came over and handed me a cup of coffee. "How is it?" I asked her. "It hasn't been easy," she replied, sipping her coffee. Currently, we were attending an international symposium on classical research. A brutal murder had occurred here, which was why they invited us to join the investigation. This was my 5th year studying under Professor Xu Cheng. I had gone from having to run out and hug a trash can to vomit when entering a crime scene to being able to sit calmly beside a body and share a steamed bun with Su Tion. This case was very complex. The perpetrator had severed the victim's head and placed it on a dinner plate. The door to the room pushed open again, and Xu Cheng walked in. "Don't just stand out here talking. Ji Boda, you're good at languages. Go ask the scholars present for more information. Su Tion, you come with me." I quickly gulped down the last of my coffee. I had only recently started learning German and could only manage basic communication. "You said that afternoon you were eating chocolate potatoes?" I frowned at the middle-aged German man in front of me. Suddenly, a soft voice spoke up beside me. Hearing my mother tongue in a foreign land was rare. But what made me stop wasn't just the language, it was the suffocatingly familiar cadence. I looked up and locked eyes with her. I was stunned. I never thought I would see Lu Ruyan again. She was still wearing a white dress, her face possessed a rare beauty, and her expression retained its characteristic coldness. My gaze fell upon the employee badge hanging from her chest. It turned out she was a classical researcher invited to the event. I turned and ran the very next second like a true fugitive. I didn't want to see her anymore. But she kept chasing me, calling my name. Finally, she cornered me in a narrow section of the tea room. My hand hit the iron railing and got scraped, turning a large patch red. I cried out in pain. "Are you okay?" she asked, grabbing my hand. This was the first time we had met in 5 years. She hadn't changed much, except her eyes were rimmed with red. I yanked my hand away. "I've been looking for you all these years," she said as we sat on the stairs, the distance between us wide enough for another person to sit. "I asked the teachers and friends. I went to England to find you but couldn't find a trace. Why did you break up with me?" Time is a cruel thing. It blurs painful memories. 5 years had passed, and busy with work, I had almost forgotten why I had been so persistent in not letting go back then. Looking back now, there was only a sense of detachment. I blinked, thinking of the only answer. That day, I just felt too tired. I stood up to leave, but she pulled my hand back. "Ji Boda, can we not let this be the end?" I turned back to look at her. "We can't." My answer came so fast it surprised even me. Her breath turned into puffs of white mist in the cold air. This was the first time I had seen her eyes so red. Lu Ruyan didn't seem to understand what I said, she just followed me sullenly. When she saw me pick up a soda with a green label, she reminded me, "You aren't used to drinking that kind." But I always had a bit of a rebellious streak, especially when facing Lu Ruyan. I twisted the cap and took a gulp, only to immediately have to find a place to retch. She laughed, her eyes curving like crescent moons. In the 3 years we were together, I had never seen her laugh that much. I couldn't get rid of her, so I finally let her follow behind. As we walked together, she naturally helped me translate the German. She conveyed information very clearly and seemed to know many of the researchers present. Clearly, in these years, she had become a prominent name in the field of classical literature. That evening, we worked on gathering information surrounding the case. As it grew late, the culprit had yet to be identified. This raised 2 issues. 1. Should the conference continue? 2. Was the suspect likely to strike again? According to Xu Cheng's judgment, the likelihood of a repeat offense was very high. This crime bore clear signs of a revenge killing. After the murder, the killer had used the victim's blood to write a message in German, "None of you can escape." We spent the entire night reviewing the victims' relationships. Although pulling all-nighters was common, I hadn't adapted to the time difference yet and was exhausted beyond measure. I rubbed my eyes and leaned back in my chair to rest for a bit. When I opened my eyes, I realized I was resting my head on someone's lap. The linen fabric of the shirt felt pleasant against my face. A light, cold scent of orange, yet with a hint of sweetness, smelled exactly like the body wash someone used to use. Realizing this, I sat up with a start. Lu Ruyan. I called her name coldly, but she merely pushed up her black-rimmed glasses, which I hadn't realized she started wearing, and pointed a pen at the notebook. There are a few grammatical errors here. I think they should be corrected like this. The marks and corrections she made truly improved the flow of the sentences significantly. It felt surreal that two people who had abandoned each other so abruptly 5 years ago could now sit and converse so calmly. I stood up, intending to go outside for a breath of fresh air to clear my head. She stood up and followed. Suddenly, a black coat was draped over my shoulders. It's freezing outside, don't catch a cold. I sighed, rubbing my face before turning to look at her. Do you want to talk for a moment? The snow had stopped falling, but it seemed even colder out there. I looked at her thin shirt, but I no longer felt that surge of anxiety I once did. Even if she froze to death out here in the white snow, it had nothing to do with me. The zygonic effect, I said. People usually can't forget things that were interrupted or left unfinished. It's the same with my breaking up with you. Lu Ruyan, you just aren't resigned. You can't accept that this relationship ended because of my decision. But that's a normal psychological phenomenon, not love or genuine interest. I looked directly into her eyes. You don't need to do this. Over all these years, there must have been many people more suited to you than I am. We are finished, completely finished. Don't look for me anymore, and don't follow me anymore, okay? Before I could finish, she suddenly pulled me into a tight embrace. Her body was incredibly cold, melted snow seeped into my sleeves. She trembled. It's not that I didn't like you. Not that I didn't love you. For years, I've thought about it over and over again. It's not that I'm not resigned, I just... Her voice weakened and vanished into the wind and snow. I coldly pushed her away. I'm sorry. Lu Ruyan, if you continue to pursue me, I will call the police. I used to think I was the one without shame, but I never expected a day would come where I'd see Lu Ruyan acting even more shameless than me. In the breakfast room, I looked up at the woman across from me. Don't you understand what I'm saying? She coughed a few times, half of her face buried in a thick coat, her dark circles prominent. I can act as your translator, she suggested. In truth, thanks to her help, my work efficiency increased greatly. But throughout the investigation, she coughed incessantly. Yesterday, when the snow was heavy, she had worn only a thin shirt and given her coat to me. It would be a miracle if she didn't catch a cold. But I was no longer the person who would brave the rain to buy medicine for her. At most, I simply reminded her, drink plenty of warm water. By the bar, Su Tion ruffled her messy hair. If it's revenge, then there's probably no danger left, right? Then she looked up and saw Lu Ruyan standing beside me. Isn't this the famous scholar Lu Ruyan? Honestly, I should thank you. If you hadn't heartlessly abandoned G. Boda 5 years ago, he might not have stayed with us until now. Su Tion turned to me, joking. Do you see the look in her eyes? Care to guess if she's thinking of a way to kill me? But let me tell you, this is a society ruled by law. I ignored her complaints because this case had too many anomalies. Everyone needs to leave right now. Shu Chong suddenly strode toward us with a look of tension I had never seen before. The suspect intends to kill the entire classical research community. 8 C4 bombs have been planted in this building. Shu Chong explained as he led us down the stairs. The opposition is a religious extremist group. They believe the ancient Babylonian tablet you decoded last week contains information about the end of the world. I suspect an insider. The moment he finished speaking, the first bomb detonated. The staircase began to shake and collapse, creating a massive gap between us and Shu Cheng's group. Su Tion clung to a steel beam, reaching out toward me. I reached out, But just as I was about to touch her hand, the ground beneath my feet gave way. The next second, I was firmly pulled back by someone. Lu Ruyan's hands were shaking. How could a girl who spent her days researching ancient texts have the strength to hold onto a man like this? The sweat on her forehead dripped onto the back of my hand, scalding hot. "Let go." I looked at her, gritting every word. "I don't want to owe you my life." The spot she was holding also collapsed. We both fell, accompanied by Su Tiantian's piercing scream. I felt my head hit a piece of stone, and then Lu Ruyan adjusted her body to shield me in her arms. A groan of pain echoed in my ear before everything plunged into darkness. When I regained consciousness, I heard Lu Ruyan's labored breathing. Her condition was definitely not good. I felt a thick liquid all over my hands. I immediately tore my shirt to give her first aid in the darkness. "Lu Ruyan, it feels better if you cry out when you're in pain," I said. She didn't answer, only gripped my hand, our 10 fingers interlaced. "The day you left, I thought you would come back. So I waited, but I never saw you return. Later, I learned you went to England. I wondered how many flight hours it would take for you to come back and visit me. But then I knew you had no intention of returning." Her voice choked up amidst the ruins. "I changed my phone number over a dozen times but still couldn't reach you. That entire year, I don't know how I made it through. With every call from an unknown number, I hoped it was you. The world is so big. Why was it that before, I only had to look and you were there, but later? I finally understood it was because you wanted me to find you. I know it's best not to bother you, but now you're right in front of me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." She kept repeating her apologies until the rescue team found us. As faint rays of light broke through, I shuddered looking into her eyes. Lu Ruyan's eyes had lost their focus. There was only a vivid red of blood. Lu Ruyan had gone blind. She had broken ribs, and a steel rod had nearly pierced the back of her head. I stood by her hospital bed as the cruel sunset filtered through the window. "Lu Ruyan, I am very grateful to you. Without you, I might have lost my life. But you know, there's a concept called moral kidnapping. You saving me doesn't mean we're going to start over." I took a deep breath. "I can pay the medical expenses, hire a caregiver, or personally look after you until you recover. But after you're discharged, we are finished. Do you understand?" The person on the bed remained silent. As I prepared to leave, she suddenly raised her hand into the air as if trying to grasp something that wasn't there. "Don't go. Stay with me. Please." She ate whatever I gave her and always cooperated with the treatment. The nurse said that she only stopped complaining of pain when I was by her side. Once, I met with the attending physician. "You are Ms. Lu's partner, aren't you? The patient's mood is unstable. Tears will not be good for the recovery process." "I am not her partner," I shook my head. "If my presence affects her condition, I will leave." When I returned to the ward, although her eyes were bandaged, Lu Ruyan seemed to have heard everything. "I'm not playing along anymore," I said coldly. "If you keep this up, I can't stay." After a long while, she finally shook her head slightly, her voice as faint as the wind. "I won't cry anymore. Don't leave." She sat there like an abandoned rabbit, not daring to cry because of my order. I decided to step out for a bit and ran into Shu Cheng. A vase just grazed my foot, a familiar scene between the professor and Su Tiantian. "And what about you? Aren't you the one who's supposed to give in to me?" Shu Cheng's voice roared from inside. Su Tiantian walked out, clutching her bleeding head but still smiling. "Ji Boda, don't go in. My brother is furious. How are you and Lu Ruyan?" That look she gave me that day, it was like she wanted to kill me. Before I could answer, my phone vibrated incessantly. It was the nurse on the other end, her voice panicked. "Mr. G, can you come back immediately? The patient is too agitated, the 4 needles have all come out, and she keeps calling your name." When I ran back to the room, Lu Ruyan was staggering, her clothes disheveled, her mouth constantly calling out, "Where is Ji Boda? I want to see Ji Boda." "Ji Boda is here. Stop making a scene," I said, standing there. Hearing my voice, she stopped abruptly, hurriedly adjusting her collar and hair as if to maintain her image. Then she stumbled toward me, touched me, and immediately embraced me tightly. Her body now smelled entirely of disinfectant mixed with a faint scent of the old days. "Lu Ruyan, do you think doing this will make me forgive you?" I stood there, my whole body stiff. All these years I had told myself that hurting once was enough, that scolding her once would be the end of it, but the sorrow still felt like it was strangling my heart. My entire body ached. Was it too late to turn back now? In the silent night, I asked her, but she only trembled and held me tighter. Her body shook, whether from pain or tears, I didn't know. I suddenly thought that the doctor's instructions had likely been in vain. That night was like a great storm pouring down. Since that night, Lu Ruyan seemed to have changed. I didn't know how to describe this change, but whereas before she was always shrouded in mist, now there was a flicker of light. It was a good thing, because the doctor said her recovery speed had increased. The faster she recovered, the sooner I could leave. Regardless, I didn't stop my efforts to help her. I never expected that one day I would become proficient in a new skill, how to feed a blind person. Most of the time, we were silent. She wasn't one for talking, and I didn't enjoy talking to her. The day the bandages were removed from her eyes was also the day I left. She told the doctor she could see. The doctor smiled and said it was a good sign. I stood by the bed, saying that my visa was about to expire and I had to leave first. She sat there in a daze for a long time before softly asking, "When are you leaving?" "This afternoon. I won't disappear without a word again, you know that." Then came the silence again. I watched her hands, seeing her grip and release the bedsheets repeatedly. Finally she smiled and asked, "Can I see you again?" "We don't have the kind of relationship that warrants seeing each other again," I interrupted. These words were the exact echoes of what Lu Ruyan had once said to me. "Boda, must you insist on forcing me to go with you? Boda, how can you not even handle a simple task like this? Boda, is this really worth making a scene over?" Now, those cruel words came easily to my lips. She listened to me and drifted into thought. She had been like this lately. I never could tell what was going on in her head. I turned to walk away, and she asked from behind, "Can I at least have your contact information?" I didn't answer, only closing the hospital door behind me. I suddenly remembered the day I added her on WeChat. I had sent dozens of friend requests. Back then, she probably never imagined that one day she would be the one desperate to reconnect with the person she had rejected scores of times. I flew back to England alone. On the way back, the small plane encountered some technical issues, shaking violently. I rested my chin on my hand and looked at the clouds outside, feeling as though the past month had been nothing but a nightmare. Seeing Lu Ruyan again, how could I not be moved? After all, she was the one I had loved with all my heart in my youth. Encountering her again was like tearing open a wound that had just begun to scar over. The anger and sorrow were piled high like stones or dark clouds, but it wasn't easy to cry anymore. I could only try to endure and digest it on my own. Regardless, she was in Germany and I was in England, 1,000 kilometers apart. We would likely never meet again in this lifetime. But 3 months later, the new neighbor who moved in next door turned out to be a Chinese woman named Lu Ruyan. What a coincidence. Your university invited me to teach. I didn't expect the rental to be so close to you. She handed me a gift. I took it and threw it directly into the trash can beside us, then drove to the university. In the days that followed, every time I left the house, I saw her, whether it was 5, 7, or 9 in the morning, rain or shine. She always wore a long dress, perfectly made up, sometimes bringing me fruit, sometimes food. And without exception, all of it was tossed into the trash. Finally, unable to bear it any longer out of fear of being reported for wasting food, I stood at my door, hands in my pockets, looking at her as she held a box of wontons. Lu Ruyan, haven't you caused enough trouble? I tried these. The flavor is very authentic. You've been working all day and haven't eaten, remember to eat. I took a deep breath. 700 meters to the left is an entire street full of restaurants. If I'm hungry, I'll go out and eat myself, understand? She stood there holding the wonton box, not knowing whether to set it down or keep holding it. Truthfully, I knew very well that the wontons from that shop were famous. The shop was far away, and one had to wait at least an hour in line. But what did that matter? Even if you care, I don't want to go back to the way things were. I took out my keys, opened the door, slammed it shut, and added one last remark, and furthermore, you are truly annoying. I had actually prepared to talk to the landlord about moving, but from that day on, Lu Ruyan stopped bothering me. Occasionally, food would still appear at my doorstep, and when I coughed or felt unwell while lecturing at school, medicine would be left on the stairs. But I never saw that person again. Perhaps she realized she was truly disturbing me. Since our majors were so different, Lu Ruyan and I almost never crossed paths at the university. However, I still heard her name occasionally during student discussions. Lu Ruyan was a genius who commanded attention, not only for her talent but also for her striking appearance. She was known as the Ice Beauty. This year, Professor Xu Chong unexpectedly took on a new student. He cleared away his teacups and said, "This one was pushed onto me through connections. You teach him, don't come looking for me anymore." When I saw who my new student was, I felt a wave of nausea. It was Lin Chung. First Lu Ruyan, and now Lin Chung. Every toxic connection from my past was finding its way to me. Lin Chung had abandoned classical literature to switch to psychology. But what I didn't expect was that Lin Chung had become a social media celebrity in China. He had built an image of a brilliant, highly educated young man. I accidentally appeared in one of his videos and became the vindictive senior. Lin Cheng's English hadn't even reached an IELTS 6.5 level, and his essays were riddled with grammatical errors. Xu Chong said it was unacceptable, and I simply relayed that information. The result was that the following evening, he posted a video to social media. In the video, his eyes were red, his voice filled with grievance. "It's 1:40 a.m. in London. Perhaps I'm just unlucky. A senior who used to make things difficult for me during undergraduate years is my senior here as well. Everyone knows he isn't a good person. My grandfather gave me a precious pen, and that senior was jealous and stole it. After the police intervened, he snuck back at night to return it and then framed me. Now he's withholding my essays, won't let me submit them, and won't let me see my advisor. He has truly changed. He's always looking down on me just because I'm Chinese." That video exploded. The topic of international students being isolated and bullied became the center of attention. The next day, my email inbox was flooded with insults. My phone was called so incessantly it had to be locked, my home address was leaked, and the comment sections were full of curses. "This kind of person isn't even worth pitying if he dies. I hope he dies." Foreign students at my school began to harass me. After work, I found that someone had slashed my tires. Su Tiontion walked up beside me. "Let me take you home. Stop looking at your phone. This whole thing is baffling. Don't these people have brains?" On the way back, I watched the cars blur past the window. When I got home, I saw Lu Ruyan again. She hesitated as if to grab my hand, then stopped. That night, I looked down from my balcony and saw her standing under the streetlight like a lonely pine tree in the wind. The next day, Lu Ruyan got into an altercation with a student who was drafting an email to insult me. She got physical, and both ended up in the school infirmary. By the time I arrived, it was nearly dark. Lu Ruyan wasn't seriously injured, but her old injury from Germany had flared up. I sat beside her, staring at the ceiling, and asked softly, "Lu Ruyan, does the truth even matter?" "It matters," I heard her reply. But this time, my answer was, "It doesn't matter. To Lin Chung, the truth doesn't matter. To the netizens, it doesn't matter either. And to me, it shouldn't matter anymore. No one cares how many bowls of noodles you ate until you cut yourself open to show them. They are just attacking a virtual character that bears my name. If I defend myself, will anyone listen? No, they are just passers-by, leaving a comment and forgetting it the next second. No one cares if you're innocent. What's the use of me caring so much about it?" In the past, I had handled a serious case involving cyberbullying. It had devastating consequences for a girl. Even though she tried to prove her innocence, public opinion wouldn't let her go. That was the era of social media growth and short videos. A place where killing a person became too easy with just a few clicks. But the cruelest part is that those holding the knives online never feel like they are committing a crime. I didn't even understand why I was saying these things to Lu Ruyan that day. Someone like me should have seen through everything long ago. Perhaps because it was Lu Ruyan. She was on an 4-drip, I stood up to leave. Why should I care? According to Adlerian psychology, life is about separating your tasks from those of others. But I heard her sitting there, whispering, "Doesn't it matter very much?" Suddenly, I felt as if time had wound back to that afternoon 5 years ago. I had gripped her wrist, and she had frowned, asking, "Why do you always force me to believe you? Is my trust that important?" As it turned out, this was her long overdue answer. I didn't expect that Lu Ruyan, who never used social media, would post an incredibly long article. She detailed the incident with the pen from years ago, providing evidence that under those conditions, it was impossible for me to have climbed through a window to return the pen as Lin Chung claimed. She wrote a great deal, and only now did I learn that the post on the confession wall back then was deleted so quickly because she had demanded it. When the pen went missing, she had also affirmed to the teacher that she trusted me. From beginning to end, Lu Ruyan told the story strictly as a former classmate, never once mentioning our personal romantic history. At the end of her post, she clearly stated the name of her current university and her academic achievements to serve as a guarantee for my character. In reality, very few people are willing to stake their academic reputation like that. If I were truly in the wrong, she would be implicated and her entire career ruined. Following this, Professor Xu Chong also posted a statement confirming he would no longer be advising Lin Chong. He stated bluntly that Lin Cheng's essays were poor due to a lack of competence, which had nothing to do with me. What surprised me most was that many former partners and even the mother of the girl who had been cyberbullied years ago stepped forward to testify on my behalf. Public opinion began to flip. The downfall of an online intellectual idol became the new source of entertainment. Media accounts swarmed to attack Lin Chung, exposing his dark secrets. I suddenly realized a sad truth. The statement from that poor mother carried very little weight. People were simply intoxicated by the thrill of a scandal. They didn't care who was right or wrong, they only cared about having someone to attack. Lin Chung posted one final video and then vanished. There were rumors he was in danger, but no one confirmed them. My life gradually returned to its regular orbit. I heard that Lu Ruyan's business trip was coming to an end. This was truly news worth celebrating. I practically wanted to carve the words "Hurry back to Germany" onto my forehead. But then she told me, "I've decided to stay at this university to continue my research." I narrowed my eyes at her, offering a joyless smile. "Is that so? What a pity. My professor is about to be invited back to our home country, and I'll be going with him." She looked at me with an expression of pure bewilderment. Another year arrived, and the streets were radiant with lights. Word was that there would be a fireworks display nearby. When I got home, I arrived just in time to see the brilliant fireworks blooming in the sky. I didn't allow her to touch me, and she no longer tried to. She simply gestured for me to open my hand. A delicate necklace dangled in the air, featuring a heart-shaped design. It was the very same necklace I had thrown into the man-made lake all those years ago. The shimmering light reflected off her face amidst the roaring thunder of the fireworks. The necklace wasn't lost. My words might not be trustworthy. She choked out. I looked at her, then suddenly snatched the necklace and hurled it forcefully into the vast night once more. "Happy New Year, Lu Ruyan." She nodded, standing beside me. Her breath formed clouds of white mist that couldn't hide the redness in her eyes. After throwing the necklace away, I stood silently watching her. Lu Ruyan remained there, unmoving, watching me with a deep, soulful gaze. "Actually," I spoke up, breaking the silence, "you don't need to keep trying so hard for me anymore. I used to think we could never go back to the way we were, but perhaps I was wrong." Lu Ruyan looked at me, her eyes shimmering with sadness but also a flickering spark of hope. "Ji Boda, I want nothing more than to be by your side. Though I made mistakes in the past, I cannot lie to myself about these feelings." I sighed and gave a small smile. "You know, I mistakenly thought I could live perfectly well without you. But truly I can't. I tried, but the memories of us always haunted me. Perhaps we can't go back to how it was, but that doesn't mean we can't start over from the beginning." She stepped closer to me, her eyes sparkling with joy. "If we can start again, I promise to make everything better." I nodded. This time, I didn't push her away when she reached out to take my hand. The handhold was no longer awkward, it carried a genuine warmth. We stood there in the freezing winter night, but both of our hearts had begun to melt. "We will start again, but this time, let's take it slowly and sincerely," I said. She smiled, a small but determined nod. The fireworks in the sky continued to explode brilliantly, but now I felt a profound sense of peace in my soul. Lu Ruyan and I stood side by side, hand in hand, ready to begin a new chapter of our lives. For the first time in years, I felt truly light-hearted and happy. Finally, we had found each other amidst the wounds. No more misunderstandings, no more distance, only love and trust as we walked toward the future together.